Well, welcome to Yakima. Welcome to Yakima Southwest Rotary. All right, doesn't sound like our. This is Taylor. Can you help me on some backup here? Hey, we're gonna have Emily Jameson come up and do introduction. Oh wait, Frank Rowland's gonna come up and do our invocation. Come on up, Frank.
Thank you. Got to get first things first, man. So I don't know if this is working. Okay, please join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, we live in crazy times, but we thank you that you have provided us a place where we can be together, serve our world, and change our community. So we just ask these blessings upon us, and I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Emily, you want to come up and do introduction of our guests? It's getting a little bit better.
Okay. Is this on? Is it good? Okay. I would like to extend a warm Southwest Rotary welcome to Richard Gilliland from Walla Walla Noon Club. Wow. You must have heard that we are the most awesomest club in the world and you wanted to see for yourself. Am I right, Richard? Thank you for being here. And I'd like to welcome Dwayne Monick from downtown and Bob Harrison from downtown. Thank you. And I'll have Raquel Alcala introduce her guests. There looks like there's maybe one more named Rob.
Yes. I have Rob. Sorry.
Rob, you matter.
Rob is our new airport director.
Ooh.
Need more flights.
Okay. And Lizzie has a guest.
I do. I have my friend Bryn Jacobs here. She just started as the executive director for First Team. First Team is very supported by Rotary, so she might be here quite a bit, trying to advertise more, get some more input from y'all.
And Nicole Britt has a guest.
I have my friend Marlo here. She's from State Fair Park. She's the business development director in 2021.
Welcome. And Curtis Sundquist. Curtis, oh.
My wife Mary is here with me today.
Thanks, Emily. Wow, look at that. A slight battery change, and the microphone works a lot better. All right. Thanks, Gib, for the pro tip, wherever you are. All right. Up next, we got some club announcements. Some of you probably saw this on Facebook this morning, but Luis Cardenas and Paul Trotter were having, I think, breakfast or meeting this morning at Essentia, and walks Emily Jameson, and they decided to do an act of kindness and bought her breakfast this morning, I understand. So kind of a cool story. Member anniversaries. So Lizzie, thank you for 3 years of service. Thank you. You can give her a round of applause. She's done a great job. I'm going to do them in the years. So Emily Jameson and Tammy Granados for 5 years of service to the club. Tony for 9 years of service. Thank you, Tony. Gary Layton with 11 years. Yeah. Matt Reed, 13 years of service. Thank you. And then Bill Foster, 16 years of service. And then,
Probation just about due for review.
yeah. And then David Lemon, 31 years of service. Thank you, David. Lynn Harlington has a birthday coming up. Lynn, you doing anything fun to celebrate? Oh, fun. Happy birthday, Lynn. All right. Other club announcements. So April 14th, we have a newer member orientation and fireside hosted by both Lizzie and Tammy. This is in the bulletin as well, so you can RSVP to that and getting a hold of Tammy for that. We had Guess Who's Coming to Dinner this past weekend. You'll see some familiar faces here. So I want to thank Liberty for hosting, Tressa for hosting, the Egglets for hosting this first round of 3. So, and then myself and my son, he helped host. And then I believe it was Gene. DeLuca's group. Gene, thank you for hosting. So I think we had a fabulous time. I asked Tressa, I said, I want to do Guess Who's Coming to Dinner in the fall and the spring, but we had a pretty hot social going on in the club, so I think we should do this 3 or 4 times a year. It was a great time had by all. So, and if you haven't attended, yeah, and if you haven't attended, it is like the event. I mean, it is a great fellowship, fireside, Rotarian event to attend. So definitely sign up for that next year if you did not get signed up this year. We have our auction coming up on April 28th. Each member is responsible for 2 tickets. You can buy that out with a table sponsor if you secure a sponsorship of $500 or greater. If you supply something of value of $500 or greater, you will also meet that requirement. And then silent auction. If you don't participate in securing a silent auction item, it's a $100 buyout. So if we don't do that, then you'll just see it's just a little extra side giving you get to do as a part of the event. So if you have any questions, you can email me. You can also email Jason Kildall. I think we have 250 people signed up for the auction already. So we're doing really good. We have room for 300, and I think there's still quite a few that probably haven't RSVP'd yet. So the district conference. This is great because we have some outside visitors in 5060 as well. So the district conference is in Leavenworth, May 19th through the 21st. There should be a link to that in our bulletin as well. All right, and then with that, I think Dwayne wanted to share a thank you to our club. Go ahead, Dwayne, if you want to just.
So I think you all know from an email you got over the weekend that your club gave out of its club assets a $5,000 contribution to Imagine Scholar. The Downtown Club did likewise, and we're asking other Rotarians if you want to come on board with additional funds, that'd be great. Imagine Scholar would use them well, I'm sure. So thanks a lot for what you've done in the past. You guys have and ladies, you've all been really the backbone behind the support that Imagine Scholar has gotten in this community, and you really deserve a big hand. Give yourself a hand.
Thanks, Dwayne. I believe if you saw the email I shared, and I apologize, the formatting was all spaced. Anyway, I thought I fixed the formatting and it made it clump together a little bit. It was a little harder to read, so I apologize for that. But there's $11,000 left to raise for the Imagine Scholar campaign. So we sent out just a personal ask. A lot of times the club supports, but people want to come along and support. So we want to give you that opportunity to come along and support something that our club supports as well.
Don't feel compelled.
No, feel compelled. But maybe after the auction. How about that? Okay, are there any other announcements for the club? I think, we're doing the Camp Hope dinner service. And Angie's going to send out an email just as reminders for that. That's going to be this Thursday. And then I believe the next one's going to be May 30th, where we get to serve at Camp Hope. Anybody else for the good of the club for announcements? Okay. With that, I got Tom Sparling for Sergeant at Arms.
Thank you, President Dirk. So, Christine, what do we have in the raffle today? $200 even? Yep. Ooh, that microphone's a little glitchy. Okay, 200. And who is going to pull the ticket? Okay, Steve.
Last 3 digits, 766.
766. All right, Lynn. Hey, happy birthday.
Let me see this real quick.
Okay, yeah, sure. Is it on? All right. No? Okay. Too bad. So let's start it with Happy Bucks. Who has got some Happy Bucks today? Bill.
I have 10 Happy Bucks for Liberty, just opposing us, and had a great time with, I mean, I thought I was gonna meet somebody I didn't know, but I knew everybody.
Yeah, okay. All right. Thanks, Bill. Other happy, yes. Stephanie?
She was the MC at our Top Scott pageant, so she did a great job. And I got a surprise text message from my daughter. She competed in her first bodybuilding competition and placed second.
All right. Yeah, that's good. Okay, good for her. Matt?
Happy Bucks, wonderful time with Dirk and the host. We also was at dinner, so thanks Tressa for ordering.
So who cooked that meal? Dirk and his son? I mean, what was going on? Dirk and his son. Okay, and it still came out good, huh? Amazing.
Good restaurant.
Yeah. All right, Emily.
Yeah, I have 2 Happy Bucks. One is for Paul and Louise for my breakfast this morning. That was really fun. And letting me cook the party. And my second Happy Buck is for Nick and I went to the Tri-Cities and we took a dinner cruise on the water to wine cruises down there. And we have not had a chance to get away at all since our unfortunate incident earlier in February. And just to have that chance to go away as a couple, and that cruise was excellent. I totally recommend it. It was beautiful, and it was a wonderful time for both of us.
Okay, great. Good. Gib.
All right, this is actually for Liberty. On my way here, she pulled me aside and she asked me if I was coming. She couldn't make it because she's sick. But she told me what a great time she had at the dinner. And so it makes me want to go. I want to be a part of it next year. So
Yeah, good.
she really enjoyed herself.
I'm glad. Yeah, they all the photos look like people are having a great time. Mark.
I also have 10 Happy Bucks for Kim and Brian. Great job, great hosts. Their caterer is so really scored going there.
Yeah.
He makes wine.
I know. That would have been
So, and you should see his bar.
good. Okay, Bill.
Well, I've got to echo the same thing for Dirk and his famous pasta-making son, Byron, that just pounded out the pasta, made it all while we were standing there at dinner time.
Is that right? Wow.
And it was fun to see
Impressive.
Gonzalez and Colonel
Oh, yeah. That's right, Berna.
helping out. So
Good.
it was a great time. Thank you.
Good, good, good. Okay, George.
Jean's house for dinner, and it was actually good. Food was superb, and it just kept rolling on. If you ever have a chance to go to dinner over there,
Okay. Thanks, George. Who? Yes, Mr. President.
I'll do 5 for a mix of
The twins.
being able to. No twins today.
A bucks for Benji.
I told Ann I couldn't afford to do it every week. This is for home hosting and the group that we had show up, and then also my daughter's in the middle of fast pitch season right now, and it's freezing cold out there, and I'm stuck here. So.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, thank you, President Dirk. Any other happy bucks? Okay, Gene.
I hosted for the first time, and tell you, it was really awesome. It was a ton of fun. We had.
Yeah, Gene, the airport director, you might notice Gene is actually at the airport. He's on the wall there, so every time you go there, you'll see Gene. It makes my day, It's like, hey, I know this guy. Okay, any shameless plugs? Okay, yes.
Shameless plug for Valley Ford.
Oh, my God.
I took my wife's car in this morning.
Uh-oh.
Some work done on it, and it came back in one piece and everything.
Wow, yeah, that is pretty rare. I'm really happy to hear that. So, it must have been because I didn't know your car was there. Otherwise, we would have left it out back. About me? Yikes. I had an employee today that was missing something, and they thought it might be in my office. It was AirPods. And so somebody asked him, well, have you ever been to Tom's office? Because it was like, why would his AirPods be in my office? I have no idea. But he had the Find the AirPods app. So he said, God, it looks like they're in Tom's office. And so they asked him, well, have you ever been in Tom's office? And he says, well, no, I've never been in trouble. I guess that's how they look at me. So anyway, any other shameless Gib?
Yeah, I've always got one. So Saturday, Weenass Creek Saloon, 8:30. It'll be Vandermeer's playing. So that's one of my guys.
Okay, Vandermeer?
My shameless.
Not Genevieve?
What's that?
Not Genevieve.
Not Genevieve.
Okay.
Not this time.
Okay.
That'll be April 7th at Cana, by the way.
Okay. We'll let it slide tonight. But, okay. Any other shameless plugs? Well, something very exciting is happening in 2 days. Do you know what that is? What is it? No, it's opening day of baseball season. It's the opening day of baseball season. And so, do you know who the Mariners are playing on their opening day? Brian? No, they are playing the Cleveland Guardians. But it was a nice guess. Could have been a nice guess. So the reason I'm mentioning that is today you're all going to do a little betting. And so we're gonna theoretically give each table $100 and tell you how much money you can win if you get the question right. And it's pretty self-explanatory. So we're gonna. This is all based on FanDuel. So if you go to FanDuel and place a bet on the Mariners today, then these are your odds. So I'm going to start out. I'll start out with guys. I got a bad. With Taylor. Do I even need this mic?
Yeah, because it's online.
Okay. All right. Okay. So, Mariners. So if you place a $100 bet today on the Mariners to win the World Series in 2023, and they do win the World Series, how much do you win? Is it $500, $1,000, $1,500, $2,000, or $4,000? If you placed a $100 bet on the Mariners to win the World Series, how much would you win? How much would you win on? $4,000? No, the answer is $2,000. So I guess there are 20 to 1 odds to win the World Series this year. Okay, so we'll go back to Martin's table. There you go, back there, Steve. And all right, so if you bet $100, you paying attention, Martin? Okay, I know you love baseball, being Canadian. So if you place $100 on the Mariners winning the AL West, and they do, how much do you win? Is it $750, $1,000, $1,250, $1,500, or $450? If the Mariners win the AL West, you bet $100 today, they win, how much do you win? What's that? That's right. It is $750. So, I forgot to mention it's $2 if you get it wrong. So that's right. Okay. So I guess we'll go back to Ryan Beckett's table. So, if you place $100 on the Astros making the playoffs in 2023, you would earn $13.33 for your $100 bet. But if you placed $100 on the Oakland Athletics making the playoffs, how much would you win? Would it be $1,000, $1,500, $2,000, $2,500, or $3,000? How much would you win if you bet that the Athletics would make the playoffs? $13 if the Astros make it. That's right, $3,000. Pay $1 anyway because we need the money. So let's go to Dave's table. Okay. So if you place a $100 bet on the Mariners making the 2023 playoffs, and they do, this is the playoffs, not the LS, how much do you win if you place a $100 bet that they'll make the playoffs? Would it be $67, $167, $267, $367, or $467? How much would you win if you placed a $100 bet on the Mariners making the 2023 playoffs? Actually, you would win $67. So not a whole lot there. So I don't know how to say. Anyway, okay. We're gonna. So let's go. Let me see when it goes. Okay. Okay. So we're at this table, Nicole's table. So okay. So if you bet $100 that Robbie Ray will win the Cy Young Award in 2023, you will win $4,000. How much would you win if you bet $100 on pitcher Logan Gilbert to win the Cy Young Award? Is it $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, or $10,000? Logan Gilbert wins the Cy Young Award. $7,000? No, it's actually $4,000. It's the absolute same as Robbie Ray, which seems like unusual because Robbie Ray won the Cy Young Award 2 years ago, I think. So, anyway, okay. So we're over here at the Eglet table. So if you bet $100 that Julio Rodriguez wins the 2023 Most Valuable Player Award, how much would you win if he, in fact, wins it? Would you win $400, $900, $1,400, $1,900, or $2,400? How much would you win if Julio Rodriguez wins the... You're betting $100. So Julio Rodriguez wins the MVP. What do you win? 900? No, the answer is actually the answer is 900. So who knew? So pay $1 anyway. But okay, so let's go back to your guys' table back there. So if you bet $100 that catcher Cal Raleigh would be the regular season home run champion, how much would you win? Would you win $8,000, $10,000, $12,000, $14,000, or $18,000 if catcher Cal Raleigh wins the regular season home run championship? Is that your guess? Yeah, you're right again. $18,000. So pay a buck. Thank you. How many more tables do I have? I know. So okay. Okay, let's go back to how many tables I got left? I got 2 in the back, right? Okay. So if you bet $100 that the Mariners would have the best record in baseball in 2023, and they did, how much would you win? Best record in baseball, $1,200, $2,200, $3,200, $4,200, or $1,850. How much would you win? Actually, God, finally I stumped you once. All right, $4,200 if the Americans have the best record in baseball. And finally, I guess table in the back. I don't think you guys got a question. But, oh, okay, so you're all set. I'm going to skip you guys. Okay, so the last question is, if you bet the over-under on the Mariners on FanDuel is that they're going to win 86.5 games. So if you bet the over, that they're going to win more than that, and you bet $100, how much are you going to win? Are you going to win $75, $275, $475, $675, or $386? If you bet the over-under, you bet the over, how much are you going to win? No, it's actually $75. Not a whole lot. I guess that one's not that risky. So anyway, thank you for helping out with Sergeant at Arms today. So now, you're going to set the thing up. So, okay. Anyway, so it's my pleasure today to welcome to Southwest Rotary Tom Tochterman. Did I pronounce that right? Yes. Okay. Tom is the founder of Rhino Mercy, a 501c3 nonprofit organization established in 2012. Between 2009 and 2012, he traveled frequently to South Africa as a result of that first aha moment during a wild animal encounter, a pride of lions, on a zebra kill. In his determination to better understand the power of such experiences on human behavior, Tom embarked on a 5-year doctoral program. Along the doctoral journey, Tom learned about the growing threat of poaching and wildlife crime in general across the African savanna landscape. He decided to focus time, treasure, and talent toward developing a new approach to anti-poaching that included more than the classical response of more guys with bigger guns. Tom formed a strategic alliance with local stakeholders on the western boundary of the Kruger National Park, South Africa, with a mission to defend a small patch of Africa against poaching. With his partner Craig Spencer, director of Trans-Frontier Africa, they co-authored the Balule Rhino Conservation Plan. The plan has 3 key tenets that include physical security, boots on the ground, environmental research, and community beneficiation. The underlying thesis that made the plan unique was a social strategy to raise a sense of environmental patriotism within the communities surrounding the Kruger National Park regarding their natural resources and natural heritage. Since the implementation of the Balule Rhino Conservation Plan, poaching has decreased 86% within the Balule Nature Reserve. In April of 2022, his work in South Africa was the cover story on Rotary magazine. Tom is further involved in African communities through his membership in Rotary International. He is past president of the Rotary Club of Lake Chelan in north central Washington and holds the classification of ecological services. He's currently involved in an effort to help local Rotary clubs in South Africa and Kenya provide relief to underserved and impoverished communities. He's been a member of Rotary since 1990 and is currently working on a project to bring safe drinking water, toilets, and computers to schools in Narok, Kenya, is that right? And Masai Mara, and the Masai Mara. He's also board chair of the Rotary Action Group for Endangered Species and has presented his efforts to save rhinos and other endangered species at the Rotary International Conventions in Atlanta and Toronto. Finally, Tom is the district governor nominee for District 5060 and will be our district governor starting in 2024. So would you please give a warm Southwest Rotary welcome to Tom Tochterman.
Thank you. And so that concludes the presentation. Wow. Jeez. You were supposed to cut and paste pieces of whoever was. Anyway, okay. It's great to be here. Couple of things first. Did Dwayne already leave? Oh, there you are. You moved chairs. I heard this club says that they're the fun club in Yakima. What do you say about that?
We're the greatest club.
Oh, greatest club, and this is the fun club. Okay, got it. Awesomest. Okay, all right, great. One little tidbit of district business is the district conference. It's going to be different this year, so I encourage all of you to consider or reconsider registering. The format is going to be, like I said, very different. It's more like an expo. How many people have gone to Rotary International Conventions here? Show of hands. And did you spend any time in the House of Friendship? Well, the concept for our district conference is really converting the conference from just your typical go and get trained kind of event to a House of Friendship expo. It's going to involve, again, in theory, clubs like yours will bring a canopy and set up and celebrate all of the things that your club has been involved with over the years and is currently involved with. We're inviting outside organizations outside of Rotary. I've felt for years that is one of the biggest missed opportunities at Rotary International, where they close off the House of Friendship at the Rotary International Conventions to Rotarians and spouses only. The general public is not welcome in these House of Friendships, but that's going to be different for our district conference. So anyway, that's a plug for the district conference this year, and that's a model that we're going to be using for the next few years. So it's going to be much, much more experiential as far as we hope anyway. So anyway, that's it. So again, thank you for, I got to change glasses, getting old sucks. Having issues with a Mozambique spitting cobra in your bed doesn't help either with the eyesight. If I have time, I'll talk more about that. So anyway, let me go ahead and get started. Got about 90 minutes worth of material here. I'm gonna poke into about a 45-minute bag and deliver in 20 minutes. So I'm gonna speed screen through some of these slides, but hopefully by the end of the session here, you'll appreciate all the work that Rotary and others are doing on the topic. So I thought I'd first start with showing you the list of different Rotary Action Groups, because I am representing Rotary Action Group for Endangered Species as well as my own NGO, Rhino Mercy. So there are currently 27, and I think there's 2 more Rotary Action Groups that are in the pipeline to be permitted or chartered. But these are the 27 that currently exist. And Rotary Action Groups are quite a bit different than fellowships. Are there any members here, any Rotarians that are members of a Rotary Action Group, one of these 27? No? How about a fellowship? There's like 103 fellowships. Personally, I'm involved with the Whiskey Drinkers Fellowship. There's a Motorcycling Fellowship. I'm lifetime members of both. There's all kinds of fellowships there. I encourage you to go online, rotaryinternational.org, and check them out, because there's a yoga one. I mean, there's lots of different things that Rotarians come together for around these fellowships, and more specifically around these hardcore Rotary Action Groups, and they're doing a lot of good work in the world and having a lot of fun doing it. So our Rotary Action Group for Endangered Species, was founded about in 2015. And it was before we had the area of focus on supporting or protecting the environment, so we had to basically apply to Rotary International around the first 3 areas of focus, and then obviously a few years later, after significant lobbying on the part of several of us to get this 7th area of focus adopted, Rotary International finally did. So anyway, if you're forming a RAG or if you're involved with a RAG, the RAG does have to pertain or involve itself with at least one of the 7 areas of focus. So here's a video, and we'll see how this works, that we did to give you a little description of our action group.
There are some 8 million species on the planet, and about 1 million of them are endangered of going extinct within the next 30 years, primarily due to the illicit wildlife trade industry as well as the loss of habitat. The Sumatran or the Bornean orangutan and the pygmy elephants are critically endangered, and when they're gone, they're gone. My name is Tom Tochterman, and I am the chair of Rotary Action Group for Endangered Species. The African elephant, there is one elephant essentially dying every 15 minutes, primarily due to poaching and poisoning. The Amur leopard is critically endangered. The African black rhino is in a similar situation. The African white rhino is in a little bit better condition. I got involved with RAGES as a Rotarian, being concerned about this issue. I formed a nonprofit organization called Rhino Mercy.
Hello, we are the Black Mamba's anti-poaching unit.
It's Oscar 1 patrolling the Micah side fence.
We have established the first all-female anti-poaching unit called the Black Mamba Anti-Poaching Unit in South Africa, and they're on patrol as we speak in the Greater Kruger National Park.
So this is the evidence of the poachers.
I helped a local community with the chartering of the Hoedspruit Rotary Club in South Africa, and they've been very supportive of my NGO's effort to protect their ecosystem and their ecotourism trade. That's an example of how this Rotary Action Group is engaging in community and economic development, meeting one of the Rotary ideals or goals, objectives of an area of focus, and we're doing it through supporting the environment. In terms of the Rotary Action Group for Endangered Species, we have nearly 1,000 members from all countries that Rotary is involved with from around the world. We have as our patron Dr. Jane Goodall, and she's been very supportive of Rotary in general, but specifically the Rotary Action Group for Endangered Species, and we thank her so much for her support. Being involved in a Rotary Action Group is a great thing. If you're passionate about a specific issue, you can join one of the existing action groups, or you can create your own. There's just no limit to the things that you can do.
It is so true. Okay, so what does Rotary Action Group for Endangered Species currently do, or what are we involved in? We've got a number of projects that we have endorsed. We are basically, the action group itself, this one in particular, anyway, is sort of a conduit for Rotary clubs and Rotarians. If you're involved, either as a club or an individual Rotarian, if you're involved in preservation of endangered species, we want to know about it, and we have, on our website, we have a form you fill out, submit online form, and our board of directors will evaluate it and see if it fits our criteria, and if it does, we'll support it and promote it worldwide. So some of the projects we have either in the past or have currently underway, not we, but Rotarians and Rotary clubs. One is this pygmy elephant project in Borneo. It's a sanctuary, essentially. We've got an orangutan sanctuary also located in Malaysia. The first one was involved a Rotarian, former Rotarian. She quit when COVID struck the world, resigned that is, but she's still doing the Borneo, the pygmy elephant project. She's from the UK. The lady that does this project was partnered with the person from the UK, but she was from Australia, a Rotarian from Australia. We've got a club in South Africa that's involved with a local private game reserve to provide anti-poaching equipment. We've got a primate project in the very dangerous Democratic Republic of the Congo, headed by an organization founded by a Canadian Rotarian. Another Canadian Rotarian, different part of Canada, is involved with saving chimpanzees in Cameroon. We've got a pollinator project in Central America, Guatemala specifically. This is more like a youth citizen science type of project. Apparently they have a critical problem in Central America with the loss of pollinators and the effects on agriculture, the agribusiness.
And then there's my project, the Black Mamba anti-poaching unit, the Bush Babies, and the Bush Babies program that I'll get into here in a few minutes. So, but let me set the stage real quick on the contributing factors to endangered species. Here's a list of the primary factors, that is. You can read them. The one I'm involved with specifically is wildlife crime. Wildlife crime is a segment of environmental crime. And to give you some context of the scope of wildlife crime in particular, understand that the single largest criminal industry on the globe is drugs, essentially. It's about a $340 to $350 billion industry annually. That's followed by counterfeiting at around $288 to $300 billion annually. And then environmental crime follows that at $258 to $275 billion annually. Now, wildlife crime, like I said, is a segment of environmental crime. Wildlife crime accounts for about 10% of all of the environmental crime. Human trafficking comes in at fourth at about $160 billion annually. So in terms of the source or the use of endangered species materials, for example, rhino horn, it's the use really, it has its roots in traditional Chinese medicine. It's been used for hundreds of years. Not only rhino horn, but lots of other sort of animal parts as well as botanicals. One thing we have to understand when it comes to traditional Chinese medicine and the use of these kinds of products, they really have no medicinal value. I mean, that's been proven time and time again by universities even in China. But what you have to understand is that when you get sick in the East, it's more than just a physiological issue. It's a spiritual issue. So a lot of times these botanicals and animal species are used to supplement traditional, regular, what we would call normal medicines, to excise the demon within your body. So that's the primary purpose. So, and there is still a strong consumer demand for that form of traditional Chinese medicine. It is on the decline, fortunately, but it does still exist. And the other use has traditionally been for ornamental purposes. You see the dagger. That was, in terms of that particular use, that was mostly used in the Middle East. For example, when young boys turn to men, I forget which age it is, 14 or 16, they're given this as a rite of passage. Well, fortunately, I suppose, the young men these days don't want daggers. They want Maseratis and Ferraris, so there's a sort of a shift away from the use of rhino horn for ornamental purposes. But the demand is still strong, and so strong that these species, rhinos in particular, are in what we call a negative recruitment rate, meaning there are more rhinos lost to poaching primarily, plus natural deaths. There's more dying than being born on the globe. So this is basically just a graphic. It's an old graphic, but it's current in terms of the mechanics of it. Southern Africa is really, and in particular South Africa, is the only place left with any rhinos of any significant numbers. I'll get into the numbers here in a second. But this is the trade route. We know that when a rhino is killed in South Africa, within 24 hours, that horn is in Southeast Asia, in either Vietnam or China. So the organizations involved have a very well-tuned, greased organization. So where I operate in South Africa and where my organization operates in partnership with Transfrontier Africa, my on-the-grounds folks, my peeps, we operate in the Greater Kruger National Park, which is this lighter green section here, and specifically the westernmost boundary. We are considered to be the most vulnerable section of the park because of the population essentially from here down to the southern part of the park. There's approximately 2 million people that reside on the fence line. And so we are, as I said, we're considered to be the most vulnerable, so we patrol right up to the fence line. And the park is about 220 miles, 250 miles long, and on average about 40 miles wide. So it's a long and skinny park. Oops.
boundary here is the boundary with Mozambique. It is unfenced. The boundary out here is within the interior of South Africa, and there is like a 10-foot high voltage game fence to help keep the poachers out, but it's not a foolproof tool. So this is a current graph up till 2021. About 2016, the government started to not provide statistics on a regular basis, so we struggle sometimes with getting the facts, but these are true numbers. You can see that the graph looks good in terms of the number of poaching. The number of deaths is on a significant decline. The bad news is that that's primarily because there are fewer rhinos. We're having, for the most part, the same number of incursions into the park. The poachers are just leaving the park without having killed a rhino because there just aren't as many around. So that's sort of a false positive. So here is a list of the 5 subspecies of rhino left on the planet. These are considered to be extremely conservative numbers, liberal numbers, excuse me. In terms of the African white rhino, there's probably, darn it, sorry about that. You think I'd know how to use this. The number there is probably realistically half of that. So there are, in all of southern Africa. There are some range states like in Kenya and Tanzania and Namibia, Botswana, they do have rhinos for sure. You can go on a safari and they'll find one for you, but they're in the numbers of hundreds, or maybe in Kenya, I think they've got about 1,200 now. But the context here is that 100 years ago, there were 250,000 rhino in Africa alone wandering around. And now we're down to, maybe 20,000 in total of both black and white species. In Asia, situation's even worse. The Javan and Sumatran rhinos are both considered extinct in the wild, and they basically have 24/7 security on each individual. The Indian greater one-horned rhino is on the increase, but slowly. That's a good sign, but still, we're only talking a couple thousand rhino in all of India. So, interesting note here, there is that rhino horn pre-COVID, the black market value of rhino horn pre-COVID was between $25,000 and $60,000 a kilo. That equates to about $250,000 per dead rhino. So they come in and kill the rhino and they take the horn and nothing else. Compared to an elephant, the tusk is on average worth about $3,000 per kilo. The value is far less because there's far more of them, but they're dying at a much higher rate. We're losing about 2 to 2.5 rhinos per day in Africa. So let's move now into how I got involved. This is the exciting part, I think, anyway. So it all got started when I took my family on a photo safari. I was a member of the Bellevue Overlake Club for many years. A fellow Rotarian owned a game reserve in South Africa, and he bugged me forever to go see his place in South Africa, and I put him off and put him off. Finally, my wife and I decided, he was in his late 80s, and we thought, well, out of respect for him, let's just do this. And so we got on a plane at SeaTac and flew into Joburg on the plane for 21 hours. We landed. It was raining cats and dogs, and I looked at my wife and I said, did we just frickin' fly in circles over SeaTac for 20 hours and land again? I mean, seriously, it just looked exactly the same. And then another quick side note, I rented a car, and it turned out to be this lowrider Mercedes 200-something, 230, but it was like this far off the ground. And at the hotel that night, there was a news flash that said flash flooding in the Kruger National Park, and then, it's like, oh crap, that's right where we're going. And I looked at my wife and I said, should we check into getting a different car? The lodge would call us and tell us, these are like family to us. They'd call and tell us if we needed a different type car. We needed a different type car. And I do have a new respect for Mercedes-Benz, I tell you. This car, I went through what typically are dry riverbeds to running rivers. And we had, and I look back at it, it's really stupid for me to do it, but we had water halfway up the doors going through these riverbeds. And, they were short maybe from here to the wall,
but still swift water. Anyway, it was part of the initial experience to Africa. So needless to say, from the very first trip, it was a game changer, life changer for me and my family. And we'll get into that a little more. But so anyway, fell in love with Africa, had that aha moment. And long story short there is I decided that as I learned more about the poaching problem and wildlife crime issues in general in Africa, I thought, well, maybe as arrogant as it may sound, I thought to myself, I'm at a point in my life where maybe I can contribute some time, treasure, and talent to this problem. And so I decided to spend some time there, and I spent the next 3 or 4 or 5, 6 years, about 4 months out of the year, living in the bush with the animals and the bad guys and the good guys. And so that led to the creation of my organization, Rhino Mercy. And then all these years later, as was mentioned, we were the feature article in the April edition last year of the Rotary magazine. And interesting note here, I'm one of a handful of people that would actually know these 2 species of rhinos. They're not even in South Africa, but the magazine chose to use a stock photo because apparently the photographer they sent didn't take good enough pictures. But these 2 are rhinos that are actually in Kenya. Enough of that. So my first effort was really to start building a coalition around the mission of wildlife crime and what could be done locally. So I put together, I was blessed to be able to meet and be introduced to the right people and put together a coalition that involved local stakeholders as well as the government officials, including the National Parks Board, the South African National Parks, and the Department of Environmental Affairs. Coalition mission was basically to make the Kruger National Park, the section that we're involved with, the most undesirable place, a risky place to poach. We wanted to also develop a sympathetic community that borders the park, the adjacent villages, and then also to deal directly with the social and cultural and economic influences of wildlife crime and poaching in general. The objectives, our early objectives were basically to create a system of early detection and crime prevention, to instill or implement an effective monitoring, surveillance, and compliance program, and then to build buy-in within the local communities. And then lastly, to really seriously address the social decay that wildlife crime creates and the false economy that it creates within the local communities. So the coalition focus basically is to stop gateway crimes. We look at this like the broken windows policy. We have patrols that go out into the bush. You saw that short video. The rangers holding up the wire snares. These are snares that are set up in the bush by bushmeat poachers, and that is actually bushmeat hanging and drying in the racks. And a snare is essentially just a very simple, low-tech wire device that's made into a loop, set into a tree or a bush. Animal walks through it. It snares everything from an elephant. We actually took a snare off the foot of an elephant about 3 weeks ago, before it actually started cutting into the leg. But it will take everything from a zebra to an impala to an elephant. And eventually, if the animal is not darted soon enough, it will actually remove the leg. It will cut off the leg. So that's a big part of what we're doing. So we have basically a five-part program, and central to our effort is the all-female anti-poaching unit. And I get asked quite often, why women? And this is where I could spend 2 hours talking about the social aspect of why women. But suffice it to say that our model basically says if we want to have a long-term solution to wildlife crime and poaching in South Africa, it's not going to be the classic approach. It's not the bigger guns and bigger guys or more guys. It's going to be something different. And so what we had concluded was if we want this change, it has to start at the youngest ages, the kids. We have to have a program in the schools that talk about their natural heritage that's being stolen by wildlife crime and wildlife criminals, the poachers. And so our hope is to essentially build a sense of environmental patriotism at the youngest ages. Now, to get to these kids, you have to do it through the women. I mean, as obvious as that sounds, it is the women in the African village and African community that teaches the child, that nurtures the child, that heals the child, feeds the child. So if you want to have access to the children, you got to do it through the women. And to be quite honest, very honest, as it's turned out, as I was told from the very beginning, this is a dumb idea. Hiring black women to be rangers, it's a white man's industry. You must be from America. It's a stupid idea. Well, from day one, it's been a success because we had found out that when these women, when they got recruited and sent back to their villages, the local chiefs would have town halls, essentially. And he'd demand everybody come to meet the Black Mambas. And he basically said that if you're a poacher in my tribe, you don't go anywhere near where these ladies do, because if you do, you make me look bad. And so from day one, we knew it was a success. But selfishly, I would hire a woman in this role for this purpose over a man, sorry guys, all day long. The women, they come to work with their gear clean and pressed, with all their gear. They come to work sober. They're not asking us for money the day after payday. They don't fight. They do argue, but they don't fight like the men do amongst themselves. So there's a lot of good reasons that we have women, but the primary reason is the social aspect. And I'm going to start speeding through these. So we did recruit women from the Kruger Park, from the communities adjacent to the areas that we patrol. The Rangers have several duties, both on and off duty. During the day, they do foot patrols. At nighttime, we put them in vehicles because of the apex predator problems, lions and such. Occasionally they do roadblocks of all vehicles going in and out of the reserves, the parks, checking for contraband of all types. They do public outreach. And this was one of my proud moments. In 2016, we were given the United Nations highest environmental award called the Champions of the Earth. And they flew in two of our Rangers, two of our originals. And we have very little turnover, by the way. But they flew these two Rangers to Manhattan. These ladies had never been out of the bush, essentially, let alone to Johannesburg, never been on a plane. And boy, I can tell you, when I took them to Times Square, it was just like, oh my gosh. It was an unbelievable experience for them. And I'm just very blessed to be a part of that. So here, hopefully this video, this is a short video that hopefully you'll hear. I think there might be...
I love nature.
No.
Since when I was high school, I fell in love with nature. The rhino means a lot in my life. I see rhino as an animal that deserves to live. Every day when I woke up, going to patrol the fence, I walk with that happiness that people can see us. They won't get inside our reserve. They will know that inside the reserve there is people that are working every day. It's a nice thing working inside the reserve, because you will develop that life of the animals. It was 2012 when I first see the rhinos at Bush School. So that time I felt that I have to fight for the rhinos. It was my first time seeing a dead rhino. It was painful, deep down to my heart. It's hard to forget, and it's hard to look at that dead rhino. It is painful, scary, but it was the first time in 2015 inside our reserve, and it was the last time. We won't rest until we catch that poachers, because we will fight for the rhinos. We will fight for wild animals. To be a Black Mamba, it changed my life a lot. Because now I know who I am. Now I can fight for everything that I have. Because I have that love inside my heart of the rhinos. So I'm proud to be a black young woman doing anti-poaching. This is our nature. Even our children want to see it. They want to see the real rhinos, not the pictures. I have hope that we can win this battle.
Very good. Okay, I got to speed through some of these. The second component of what we do is the conversion of technology for use in wildlife crime and fighting wildlife crime. Here's a couple. We had camera traps all over the reserve. Several years ago, when we first installed these camera traps, we had the latest state-of-the-art Wi-Fi, or it wasn't, I guess it was cell phone, mobile phone enabled cameras. We had to stop that program real fast because data at that time was extremely expensive in South Africa. And all night long, we would be getting photos across to our phones of vervet monkeys looking at the camera doing this number. I mean, it got to be very, very expensive. So anyway, but here's a couple of pictures of poachers entering the reserve. These are examples of some of the data that we get and use and analyze. This is temporal and spatial data looking at analyzing rhino densities over a 30-day period. And these are very old graphs, so I'm not revealing any sensitive information. These are graphs, graphics on gunshot detection zones. And we compile a lot of different data. I have a whole lot of different slides I could have shown that I took out, but they all get compiled through some algorithms, and we use them on a daily basis to deploy our resources. So we don't just send our rangers out willy-nilly on a whim or a hunch. We actually are a data-driven strategy. So the third component is environmental research and education, youth education. We have a youth education program called the Bush Babies. We're teaching almost 2,000 kids on a weekly basis, year-round, an environmental education curriculum in 13 different primary schools, and all these schools are strategically located around the areas that we patrol. This is our environmental research camp, our volunteer camp, basically. It's in the bush. You can see there are no security fences around the bush. We live with the animals. It's a regular routine thing to have rhinos or elephants or lions. Hyenas actually wander right through the center here. This is where there are no utilities. We do have a water well that we pump water from, but this is where all this fire pit right here is where all the food is cooked. And if it's rainy, which it is in the summertime, it's spaghetti on a gas-fired pot, in a gas stove. And it gets old real fast. These are pictures of our research facility. It's actually a proper, this building here is our research lab, essentially this building as well. No, yeah, this is the lab and this is the sleeping facilities, and that's staff facilities. We host, at our research camp, we can host about 10 different volunteers that want to be a part of working on the reserve and other students. At our research facility here, we can host about 6 people, 6 students and their professors. We have programs with universities all over the world, essentially. The fourth component is food security, and we just last year started a food feeding program in 2 schools in the Masai Mara. We're feeding almost 900 kids lunch every day through our program, Rhino Mercy. And the thought was, in the cases of these 2 schools, over 80% of the students would go home at lunchtime and look for food and not come back to school. So my wife and I said, hey, we got to address this issue. So long story short, we decided to start this program called the Mama Watoto program. So we're feeding these kids, and we're also helping the school officials build scalable, what they call shambas. These are gardens that will support, which makes the food feeding program sustainable. They're going to grow their own grains and foods and whatnot. And we're going to use low-tech, new tech, but low-tech water harvesting systems and irrigation systems to make it work. But the way I look at this feeding program is that if we can relieve the families from pressures, food security pressures, is more likely than not that they will not then go out and bushmeat poach. So there's the intersection of food security and wildlife security, and that's what I'm taking to the IRS. So again, it's an attempt to prevent bushmeat poaching. Here is a video, but I think I'll just pass it because I think I'm running out of time. Actually, no. My Rotary Club at Lake Chelan is involved at this school, and almost all the buildings here you see with blue roofs we have just recently built. There are almost 400 kids at this school, and they're standing in line for lunch. You should have seen this place. These paths weren't there a year ago. That building in the background, our club just built. That building in the background is a dormitory that will house 40 girls. We just built, and another building over here. That building we just built as well. There's a fourth building for the staff facilities. This is about as deep in the Masai Mara, in the wild, in the bush, as you can possibly get. Extremely remote. So I'll go ahead and click through that. And then finally, to close up, our purpose, fifth component is to create this global awareness of what we're doing, what Rotary is doing, and what one person or what one club can actually engage in and accomplish. So I'm just going to let you read this just for a few seconds here. And if you walk away with anything, this is probably what you should walk away with. And with that, I'll take any questions if there's time.
I think to save time, we'll just, if you have questions, Tom, just stay afterwards and you can ask Tom.
Yeah. It's been a pleasure. Appreciate it. Love talking about rhinos.
Thank you, Tom. We have a water bottle for being our speaker today, so you maybe can travel with that to the bush. And then, so with that, I'll want to thank Emily and Mark for being our greeters, Tom for Sergeant of Arms and introduction, and then Frank for your invocation. And like I said, if you have questions for Tom, I do, please stick afterwards and get those answered. Thank you. Our meeting's adjourned.